now that we know how to route traffic from point A to point B in the network, we realize that we don't necessarily want every device in the network to reach every other device in the network. For example, we probably don't want a visitor that joins the guest Wi-Fi network to have access to our company's accounting server. Well, the great news is we can configure some very specific rules about who can go where in our network. And a really common way of doing this is to create access control lists, or ACLs for short. In this module, we're going to see different types of ACLs, such as standard and extended ACLs. We're going to take a look at some design considerations and solve some sample ACL troubleshooting issues. Let's get started though by covering some basic theory of access control lists. Let's say that we wanted to control traffic flowing through the network. Maybe we've got a couple of PCs. We've got PC A, we've got PC B, and there is a server on a different network. Maybe it's on the internet, maybe it's in a service provider cloud, but we've got a server and we want to limit access to that server to only PC A. We don't want PC B to get to it. So in other words, that router on the screen, it should allow traffic from PC A to the server, but it should block traffic from PC B to the server. That's exactly what we can do with an access control list, or an ACL, and you might hear that pronounced as ACL. And an ACL can have multiple entries, and these entries say that we're going to permit some type of traffic or we're going to deny some type of traffic. For example, I might want to permit PCA's IP address to come in to the router, but I might want to block PCB's IP address from coming into the router. Or I could apply that ACL as we're leaving the router. We can apply an ACL in the inbound or the outbound direction on an interface. And like I said, we can have multiple entries within an ACL, and they're processed top down. So if I have an entry at the top of my access control list saying that everybody from a specific subnet containing both PCA and PCB, everybody on that subnet is going to be denied, and then later on down in that access control list I have another entry to say, you know what, PCA is going to be allowed. That's not going to work, because I've already hit that initial statement that said everybody from that subnet was going to be denied. And as a result, Cisco recommends that we put our more specific instructions higher up in the list. So I would put up higher in the list possibly that I wanted PCA's IP address to be permitted to get to the server, and then lower down in the access control list I could say that I want to block the entire subnet. But that's okay, even though I'm saying block a PCA subnet, I've already allowed it, so PCA gets to go through. Another very important concept is that there is an implicit deny any statement at the bottom of an ACL. We don't enter it, but at the bottom of every access control list, there is a statement that's going to block all traffic, which means that if you don't go in and explicitly permit something, then it's going to be denied. If you just go in and create an access control list with one statement, and that one statement says block PCB's IP address, if that's all you do in that access control list, then everybody's going to be blocked, because there is that implicit deny any statement at the bottom of an access control list. And we've got a couple of types of access control lists. We've got standard and extended access control lists. With a standard access control list, we can permit or deny traffic based on source IP address information. With an extended access control list, we can be more granular. We can pay attention not just to the source IP address, but also to the destination IP address. Let's take a look at how to configure some of these ACLs, beginning with a standard ACL.